Welcome to Tuesdays with Grace. I'm Lori Larson, and we are doing the Gnome on the Roam, which is an Advent calendar, and it changes by the numbers, and they are in the little pouch, so you can change them as the days go by. So let's get started. First, we want to cut out our pattern. And the pattern, you will cut it out, and the hat will require you to tape together because it'll be on two different pieces of paper. And as you can tell, I've already cut out what we needed, but I wanted to show you the circle cutter that we have that we use to cut out the circles. There's a 5-inch circle that we cut for the body and a 2.5-inch circle that we used for the feet. So here is our circle cutter, and if you put pressure on the center and you cross your arm all the way over and put pressure and bring it around, all the way around, you then have your circle. And it's that easy. So we will be using those today. And we're just going to get started. So we're going to start with the arms. And you're going to have 4 of your arms cut out. And you're going to put the right sides together. When you sew them, you're going to use a 1/4 inch wherever it doesn't say to sew something different. So you want to leave about an inch opening. If your fingers are thicker than others, you may want to leave it a little bit wider so you can get your finger in to stuff the arm. So we're just sewing around the outside edge. And just turning it as it goes. And I'm leaving the one end open to cut it, just so that I can turn it. Before I turn it, I am going to actually clip little sections here around so that as you turn your fabric, you can, it'll turn easier. Also, one quick tip. If you put your finger all the way in, and then you take your brush that you get with your machines, and you use this to shove it up to your finger, it makes it easier. This is a little thicker fabric, so it is a little harder to get it to come through. But see how much easier it makes it to turn your fabric. So once it's turned, we're going to sew one more, and then after we get both of them sewn and turned, we will then stuff them. And as you notice, I'm using our little rebel that we have. And I love our little rebel. It is amazing. It will sew through any kind of fabric. The fabric that I'm using right now is kind of like a felt, and it's very thick, and it just sews right through it. So I am going to turn this one now. And I'm going to take this. The finger in there helps separate the fabric so that when you stick your brush handle down in there, it's easier to push it up through. And once I have those up through, they both look like that, I am going to grab my stuffing. I'm going to just take a little at a time. And if your finger's too big to put it in there, you can also use your brush to shove it in there as well. You don't want to overstuff these. If you overstuff them, your hands will stick straight out. But you do want to get enough stuffing in them that they look like a hand. So I've almost got enough in that one. Okay, and that's what it's going to look like after we stuff it. Now I'm going to get the other one stuffed. Okay, so that one is stuffed and ready to go. So now we have both of our hands ready to go. So we're going to take our body piece and we are going to put those right sides together so the wrong sides are out. And once we get them there, we are going to kind of judge the middle part of this area. And we are going to put our hand on the inside of the body. So where the two parts are together. And we are going to pin that. And now I'm going to take the other one. And I'm going to put it directly across from the other one. Just by judging it, kind of, it's in the same area. So kind of look there. And then I'm going to pin that one in. And once I got those pinned, I'm going to pin around the edges so that I can sew it. And I am going to leave this top area open, so I'm only going to sew around the outer edge. And now, if I flip the right sides out, my hands will be on the side that I want them at. But I'm going to leave it like this for right now. And I'm going to take up the 2.5 circles that I cut out with my circle cutter. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the arms. I'm going to leave like a 3/4 to an inch open as I sew around it. Okay. And now I'm going to take the foot that I've sewn. See, I left the edge. I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it the same way I did my arms. So for this fabric, turns a little easier. So these are the feet that I turn just like my arms. And once I get the other one sewn, we will stuff them as well. This one I left a little closer together, so I'm having a harder time turning. So I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to use the brush to turn it. This is a little harder. And it makes it much easier to get it turned. So if you leave that opening a little too tight and your finger doesn't fit in there very well, you're going to want to use something that's smaller that you can help you turn that fabric, because it makes it hard and you'll spend a lot of time just trying to get your fabric turned. So now we are going to stuff the feet just like we did the arms. And as you know, this one was tighter. So I am going to use my brush to shove in the stuffing. And these are the same way. If you overstuff them too much, the feet will stick out in a way that you don't want them to. They won't lay flat like you want them to. So you want enough stuffing in there that they look like they're the feet, but you don't want too much that it's going to stick out weird. And there is the second foot. Now, like the arms, we want to place the feet in the area that we think we would like them. So on the inside, I am going to bring the feet inside here and pin them from the outside right there for right now. And then I'm just going to kind of judge it to make sure that the other one's kind of in the same place on the other side, so that our feet are lined up. Okay, now to do the bottom, we have to sew the bottom circle to this opening. So you work it as you go, but I am going to pin it first where my feet are. And you're going to leave a section open so that you can stuff your gnome. And I generally leave the section at the back open. So that's an area that I am going to hand stitch shut. So I want that to be at the back so it isn't as noticeable that the stitching is different. Even if I have good hand stitching, it still will appear differently than your machine stitching. So I want that to be in the back of my gnome. And I will kind of just place it, pin it in place. But as I go around, I am going to adjust it because it will move as I sew in the circle, and I want to make sure that I keep it at a 1/4 inch and that it moves with the circle, the fabric moves with the circle. And this is the hardest part of the gnome. If you can get through this part, the rest of it is really, really easy. And so this back section I am going to leave open so that I can turn my gnome after it is done sewing. And I just always check and make sure that the bottom circle is not buckled as I'm moving around. And I want to make sure that the foot stays caught underneath there so that it doesn't come out as I'm sewing. And you can see me adjust the fabric as I go around because I want to make sure that it all stays together. And this is the area that I'm going to leave open. So I'm going to back stitch here. And then I'll clip my threads. And this is when I'm going to turn my gnome, and I will be able to see my feet and my hands come through. And there will be some threads that you may have to hand thread and tuck in as you as it turned, that it may not have caught, and that's okay. You can hand stitch those and get those in. So that's what it looks like at that point from there. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the hat. We are going to take the 2 hat pieces that we have cut out, and we are going to pin them together, the front and the back. I like to start at the tip. This material that we've chose is kind of velvety and very slick. You can use whatever fabric you want. we just chose the velvety because we felt like it was more Christmas-like. So as you notice, I'm not pinning the bottom edge. Going to leave that open. And now we're going to sew around the edges. You just have to keep making sure that the edge does not slide on you. It stays over. Because the silky fabric can do that. We will clip that. Okay. Now we will turn this so that it's right side out. And now you have your hat. Okay, now we are going to move on to our bag. Now with this, you are going to mark it an inch down from the top. So see, there's one, and then this is an inch. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So later, that mark will help me. But right now, I'm going to stitch from that mark all the way around the edge to the other mark. What's nice about the Rebel is that on the plate, it has horizontal lines on it, so you know exactly where to stop to turn so that you have the exact place to turn for like your 1/4 inch marking, so you don't have to guess anymore. So see how that is sewn? I've stopped an inch down on each side. And now I'm going to clip in on that line on each side. Right there. So you can see. Make sure I got all the way in. Okay. So now I am going to separate those, and I'm going to flip that back for that 1/4 inch, and I'm going to run my nail down that. So it kind of makes like a seam. Okay, so now I have the 1/4 inch folded that way. And now I'm going to fold down a 1/4 inch from the top. I'm going to use my measurement on my plate, so I know how much a 1/4 inch is. Okay, so now that I'm marked on both sides, I can take and I can run my fingernail down that edge. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. But now I can use the other side's measurement to know exactly where I want to turn it down. And then I take it again, and I'm going to run my nail along that edge. And then I'm going to stitch around those edges. I'm going to separate them out. Clip my threads very close. Then I'm going to do it to the other side. If I can get my threads off my hand. I'm sure all of you have had that problem at one time or another where all your threads that you clip stick to you or to your hands. Make sure it's folded good. Stitch the rest of the way around. And now I want to make my area so that I can use my drawstring on the bag. I am going to sew those areas down onto the bag. You can't sew it together. You have to pull it away and sew them by themselves. But that leaves a little loop for you to be able to slide your ribbon through the hole. And I'm actually going to turn it the opposite way because it's going to make it a little easier for me to sew it. Okay, now I'm at the end of that one, so I'm going to clip that one. And then I'm going to sew the other one. I will clip those on the outside as well. Okay, and now I have my bag, and it's ready to slip through. My ribbon. And I'm actually going to use a trick my mother taught me to get my ribbon through. If you have a hard time getting it through, just stick a safety pin on the end. Clip it like that. And then you're able to stick it through the hole, and it's harder, so you're able to push it through your bag. And it pulls the ribbon through. We have it through, and I am able to gather it up as tight as I want, or loosen it up as much as I want. So there's it gathered, and there's it loosened. And I'm going to take the pin off now. And I'm going to tie these ends in a knot. And then I'm going to knot the ends. That's one side. And I'm going to make this one about the same size because I don't want them too long. So I'm going to make that knot about there. And then I'm going to clip it at an angle. The next thing we're going to do is apply Velcro stickers. And we have used pinking shears to cut out little squares, and we have glued the Velcro to the back, and we have used a fabric marker to make the numbers. Once you're able to do that, those numbers just stick right to it. You can stick the other part of it or glue or sew. Whatever kind of Velcro you choose, you can do. This is the sewing kind. So you can sew it or you can glue it to that end as well. It's up to you. Now we are going to stuff our gnome. And I'm just going to start putting a bunch of stuffing in him. Just shape him as you go. Just kind of push it up so it's in the little areas. So there, it kind of sits the way you want. Just kind of work with it. Okay. And then I'm going to stuff the hat. Just kind of shape it. This is a little stretchy fabric, so you want to make sure you shape it so it looks good. Okay. So, once the hat is stuffed, you can start working at putting it over top of your body, getting it kind of where you think you like it. Think you have too much stuffing, you can pull some out. So I'm just working with him like that so he can work. I will then stitch it to the body. But before I do the stitch it to the body, I'm going to cut out a beard and attach the nose. So you can do different kinds of noses or beards. Here we've chosen the fake fur. If you do the fake fur, you're going to want to, once you cut it out, you're going to want to stitch the top of it, because you want to kind of make it fuzzy and fur, but you don't want this fuzz up here to continue to fall off, because it is going to be right at the head and the nose. So as I have this on, I can kind of see where I want to put my beard, right? I want him about right there, which means I will probably still take some of the stuffing out of the head. And I am going to hand stitch the beard on to that area. I'm just going to whip stitch it on until it looks the way I want. And then they have different kinds of beads. And you can stuff a nose if you'd rather. We have just chosen to use a wooden bead. They have different colors of wooden beads depending on what color nose that you want to choose. There's darker ones or medium colored ones or white ones. And it probably depends on what color of the fabric you want. I kind of like the medium colored ones. So you would take a threaded needle and you would stick it through and point it, go underneath the fabric and in through the nose. I have forgotten my needle today, so I am not going to show you how to apply those, but they are in the directions. But you just stitch them on. You stitch this on like this, and once this is on, you'll probably pull a little more of this out so that this can fit down where you want it to be, so that the beard fits here. And then once the nose is on here, you will take like, there's a glue, it's listed in the instructions. It is called like E6000. It is an amazing glue. It will hold about anything. And you will glue the hat to the nose so that the hat will stay. If you don't glue it, it's not going to stay on the wooden nose. If you had a cloth nose, you could just stitch it to the nose. But we liked what it looked like with wooden nose. I did. And so we are going to just stitch that all together. And that is your Advent gnome for Christmas. And I hope you had a great time with us. We would like for you to send in your questions that you have for us. We will have a question and answer with Carla, and we would like for you to send those questions ahead of time so that we can prepare and get you the answers that you would like. If there's an episode that you would like to see or something you would like to see done, or one of our machines that you would like to see something done on, we are more than willing to do it. I am the education manager here. I work with Carla. She is our director of education. And we would like to do whatever we can to bring anything to you that will help your experience with our products and with your quilting a better experience. So have a good day, and we appreciate your time with us. Thank you.